Greetings. My name is Charles Kaprowitz, National Director of Citizen Initiatives. 220 years ago, an eminent Irish statesman by the name of Edmund Burke said the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. Thomas Jefferson said, "My God, how little do my countrymen know what precious blessings they are in possession of, and which no other people on earth enjoy. Indeed, I tremble for my country when I reflect that God is just, and that his justice cannot sleep forever." Our founders left for future generations of Americans a constitutional republic that has for its foundation God-given natural rights and personal liberties. In fact, over the last 230 years, America has become the hope and envy of nations around the world. Regrettably, over the last 45 years, there has been a concerted effort on the part of many who have maligned our heritage, our values, and our place in the world as a force for good. Our leaders and citizenry have ignored these destructive threats for too long. We have deceived ourselves into believing that energy development can be sacrificed to diversionary pipe dreams, that the Constitution is a living document that can be interpreted according to the whims of ignorant men, that the greatest free market economy in history can be sacrificed for a socialist utopia, that property rights are subject to the whims of regulators, that American sovereignty can be sacrificed to international law, that states' rights are always subject to the authority of the federal government, that truth is no more than fiction, and that political discourse is for the purpose of winning points in a college debating society. In addition, we've come to believe that $16 trillion in national debt is better than a balanced federal budget, because we want to tickle our ears with false security. We are in deep trouble, folks. In this video, you will learn how the citizenry, under Article 5 and state legislators, can reclaim our constitutional heritage and economic, political, and moral high ground. We can safely empower our Constitution through the single-issue balanced federal budget amendment convention. The Declaration of Independence is the preamble to our Constitution. It defines the God-given natural rights and personal liberties that our founders codified in our Constitution. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. Our founders understood these truths and identified them in our Constitution as unalienable rights. America's heritage was centered in divine providence, a deep respect and reverence for God. Thomas Jefferson's statement needs to be restated. "My God, how little do my countrymen know what precious blessings they are in possession of, and which no other people on earth enjoy." John Quincy Adams, our 6th president, said the following, "Posterity, you will never know how much it has cost my generation to preserve your freedom. I hope you will make good use of it." President Adams' generation paid a terrible price in wealth, blood, and suffering in order for you to inherit a Constitution that provides for you and your children God-given natural rights and personal liberties. Thomas Paine, an 18th century writer and political philosopher who had a profound influence on the writing of our Constitution, said, "What we obtain too cheaply, we esteem too lightly. It is dearness only that gives everything its values. Heaven knows how to put a price upon its goods, and it would be strange indeed if so celestial an article as freedom should not be highly rated." Our founders made an irrevocable commitment to themselves and the nation that cost them dearly in order to pass on to us the greatest document ever written that guarantees unalienable rights and personal liberties to future generations. For the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of the divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Our first president, George Washington, said, "No people can be bound to acknowledge and adore the invisible hand which conducts the affairs of men more than the people of the United States. Every step by which they have advanced to the character of an independent nation seems to have been distinguished. We ought to be no less persuaded that the propitious smiles of heaven cannot be expected on a nation that disregards the eternal rules of order and right, which heaven itself." Amending the Constitution is an arduous task. Under Article 5, if 2/3 of both houses of Congress agree to send a proposed amendment to the states for ratification, 3/4 of the states must ratify it before it becomes part of our Constitution. When 2/3 of state legislatures make a call on Congress, directing Congress to convene a federal convention, Congress must convene the convention. Again, 3/4 of the states must ratify it before it becomes part of our Constitution. Article 4 guarantees to every state a republican form of government which gives each state equal standing when calling for a federal convention. The authority each state has when calling on Congress to convene a federal convention, or when voting on whether an amendment should be sent to the states for ratification, or when ratifying an amendment, is the same regardless of the state's population. This authority is critical because only 34 states are needed to force Congress to convene the Balanced Budget Amendment Federal Convention. A state with only 500,000 population has the same authority as one with 30 million. Open conventions are not authorized in our Constitution. An open convention would usurp authority of the Constitution by rewriting some or all of it. Article 5 authorizes the states to call for a convention for proposing amendments only. There are, however, concerns about the delegates at a convention writing drafts of proposed amendments that would alter some of the protections and liberties we presently have. Citizen initiatives through committees of correspondence is sending to state legislatures pre-drafted amendments that can become part of delegate resolutions or interstate agreements. These resolutions also define the terms, conditions, and agenda delegates at the convention would be required to follow. In essence, delegate resolutions and/or interstate agreements become the documents that the state legislatures authorize to safely send amendments back to the states for ratification without the consent of Congress or the courts. Delegates are ambassadors of their state legislatures. They are not independent agents. They have no authority beyond what state legislatures grant them in delegate resolutions or interstate agreements. The resolutions passed by state legislatures provide an escape for Congress. Congress will not want to be forced into convening a federal convention. As an alternative, it will be able to avoid a convention if it sends the proposed amendment on its own to the states for ratification before 34 states complete their calls. At the time of this writing, the national debt is almost $16 trillion, with unfunded liabilities exceeding $60 trillion. Our government is adding $1.3 trillion of new debt each year. Our federal treasury takes in about $2.8 trillion in taxes each year, but spends upwards of $4.1 trillion a year. This is insanity. There can be only one end to this train wreck, and that is the destruction of American freedoms because we have become a debtor nation. For the sake of our Constitution, national security, personal liberties, and posterity, we must reverse these spending practices that may satisfy our immediate appetites, but leave future generations with an indebtedness they will find impossible to pay. In the next 3 slides, you will find the text for the proposed balanced budget amendment. Use your pause button to study the first 3 sections of the proposed amendment in this slide. The objectives of the balanced budget amendment is to require Congress to balance the federal budget each year and at the same time provide provisions that won't hamstring Congress from addressing national emergencies, wars, acts of God, and urgent matters that will require 2/3 of both houses to approve. This slide shows the balance of Section 3, Section 4, and Section 5 of the balanced budget amendment. Finally, this slide shows the last 3 sections, Section 6, 7, and 8 of the balanced federal budget amendment. If we lose the authority in our Constitution, we lose our natural rights and personal liberties. If we abdicate our authority under Article 5, we abandon our society to deviant groups bent on destroying our constitutional republic. If we surrender our constitutional and natural rights for the sake of security, we surrender ourselves to the tyranny of the government. Remember, there are only 2 methods for amending the Constitution: through Congress or through state legislatures. Because Congress is hopelessly deadlocked in politics, Citizen Initiatives is working through state legislatures on behalf of selected proposed amendments. The black states are initiative states. Their state constitutions allow its citizens to propose statutes and amendments in a variety of ways. Citizen Initiatives plans to introduce initiatives when legislatures refuse to approve one or more of our single-issue amendments. By doing so, we can, in some states, force state legislatures to make a call on Congress to convene a single-issue amendment convention. Legislative authority under Article 5 must not be abdicated by the states. Once abdicated, it cannot be reclaimed. Only the states can protect and reclaim the constitutional rights of the people through Article 5. When Congress, the courts, and the executive branch refuse to address an egregious wrong suffered by the people, the states alone have the authority to protect the people through single-issue federal amendment conventions. The states are the final arbiters in all unresolved constitutional grievances. Citizen Initiatives is working on 19 different single-issue amendments. This list shows most of them. Others can be added, as our National Planning Committee recommends. Join the Citizen Initiatives team. Each state has a critical part in our single-issue amendment strategy. Go to citizeninitiatives.org. Click the link for the Balanced Budget Amendment. Download copies of your state's resolution and interstate agreement. Give us feedback on how you can help. Support Citizen Initiatives. Educate others about single-issue conventions by ordering copies of Reclaiming America through single-issue conventions online and pass them out to others. Promote the Balanced Budget Amendment legislative seminars in your area. Direct your state legislators to make a call on Congress to convene the single-issue Balanced Budget Amendment Convention. Make a generous donation. Welcome aboard. Remember to order our book, Reclaiming America, through single-issue federal conventions. Again, order multiple copies and begin educating others about why single-issue federal conventions are the last constitutional option we have for turning America around and restoring our constitutional heritage. But act today. Go to citizeninitiatives.org. Click the book cover in the navigation bar. Welcome aboard.